My girlfriend told me to go home in front of everyone at the beach, so I did. Now her friends won't stop texting me. I need some perspective because I honestly don't know if I overreacted or finally did something right. I've been dating Talia for a year and 8 months. She works in event planning and PR, super outgoing, lives for social media moments and the vibe. She's the type who needs to document everything, who thrives on attention and being the life of the party. I'm a project manager for a construction tech company. Pretty quiet guy, not big on making scenes or being the center of attention. I like a few close friends, I like meaningful conversations, I'm comfortable with silence. We've had our differences but nothing major until this trip. Here's the thing that's been bothering me for a while now. Talia is what I'd call overly friendly with other guys. Like touchy, lots of inside jokes, that kind of thing. Standing really close when she talks to them, laughing at everything they say even when it's not funny, finding excuses to touch their arm or shoulder. At parties, she'd spend more time talking to other guys than checking in with me. I'd be standing there like furniture while she worked the room. Whenever I've mentioned it, she hits me with "you're overthinking," or "why are you so insecure?" Or my personal favorite, "that's just how I am. If you can't handle me being friendly, that's your problem." She'd make me feel like I was this uptight, jealous boyfriend for having basic boundaries. So I started wondering if maybe I was being paranoid. Maybe I was the problem. Maybe this was just what modern relationships looked like and I was being old-fashioned. Last weekend, we went on a beach trip to the Florida Keys with her friend group, about 8 people total. I figured this would be a good test to see if I was really imagining things or if there was something to my gut feeling. Spoiler alert, I wasn't imagining anything. The first 2 days were fine. Normal beach stuff, group dinners, whatever. Everyone was getting along. I was starting to think maybe I'd been wrong about my concerns. Maybe this trip would actually help us reconnect without the usual social media pressure. But then this guy Jace showed up. He's apparently the local tour organizer for some water sports activities one of Talia's friends booked. Jet skis, parasailing, that kind of thing. Good-looking guy, tattoos, that effortlessly charming vibe that comes from talking to tourists all day. You know the type. The kind of guy who knows exactly how good-looking he is. From the moment he arrived, Talia turned it on. Loud laughing at everything he said, even things that weren't jokes. Constantly asking him questions about the Keys, about his life, about the best spots to watch sunset. Touching his arm when she talked. Playing with her hair, the whole performance. At one point we were all at the beach and she asked him to put sunscreen on her back. I was literally standing right next to her holding the bottle and a towel. She'd asked me to grab them from the bag maybe 30 seconds earlier. She didn't even look at me, didn't acknowledge I was there. Just asked Jace with this big smile, "Could you get my back? I can never reach." I didn't say anything. Just stood there holding her sunscreen and towel like an idiot while she sat on the sand in front of this guy. I could feel my face getting hot, but I wasn't going to make a scene. Some of her friends noticed and got quiet. That awkward silence where everyone knows something's off but nobody wants to acknowledge it. A couple people looked at their phones. One person suddenly needed to go to the bathroom. Everyone found somewhere else to look. Talia noticed the shift instantly, and that's when she turned to me and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "I just asked him to put sunscreen on my back. If you're jealous, go home." Everyone went dead silent. A couple people tried to laugh it off nervously. I just looked at her for a second, then said, "Okay, that's it. Just okay." I didn't argue, didn't yell, didn't try to explain myself to her friends. I just turned around and walked back to the hotel. Took a shower, packed my stuff slowly and methodically, checked flight prices on my phone. Found a red-eye leaving that night, booked it, checked out of the hotel around 11 p.m. and took an Uber to the airport. I didn't text anyone, didn't leave a note. She told me to go home, so I went home. I woke up the next morning to about 40 missed calls and probably 60 text messages. Most from Talia, but also from several of her friends. One message really stood out though, from her friend's boyfriend. "Bro, she's freaking out. The hotel says someone has to cover the booking." I haven't responded to anyone yet, Part of me feels like maybe I should have stayed and talked it out like an adult, but another part of me feels like I finally stood up for myself by just leaving, by taking her at her word. Was this petty? Should I have handled it differently? Update 1. It's been 3 days since I posted, and I honestly wasn't planning to update this soon, but things have escalated in ways I didn't see coming. So let me clear up the hotel situation since a lot of people asked. I didn't just bail on financial responsibilities. Before I left, I had already paid my portion of everything we'd agreed to split, my flight down there, my half of the accommodations I'd actually used, activities I'd signed up for. The issue was that Talia had booked the room under a package deal for the full week, and when I left early, the hotel wanted the remainder paid in full. That was on her booking, not mine. But here's the thing, she wasn't upset about me leaving. Not really. She was upset that I left her in a situation where she looked bad and had to deal with consequences. The text messages from Talia went through about 5 different stages, and watching the progression was almost fascinating in a clinical way. Stage 1 was anger. You're being ridiculous. You embarrass me in front of everyone. This is so childish. You're making a scene over nothing. About 15 messages of this, each one trying to make me feel like I was the unreasonable one for doing exactly what she told me to do. Stage 2 was deflection. It was just a joke. You know I didn't mean it literally. You're overreacting to a harmless comment. Everyone else understood I was kidding. Why are you being so sensitive? This went on for maybe 2 hours, just variations on the theme of how I'd misunderstood her intentions. Stage 3 was panic. The hotel won't let us check out without full payment. My card got declined. They're saying there's a balance of $800. I need you to transfer money. This is when the tone shifted from angry to desperate. This is when I realized what she was actually upset about. Stage 4 was bargaining. Just send the money and we'll talk when I get back. I know you're mad, but don't leave me stranded. We can work this out if you just help me with this first. I promise we'll sit down and have a real conversation about everything. Notice how the conversation about our relationship was now explicitly tied to me sending money. Stage 5 was playing victim. I can't believe you'd abandon me like this. What kind of person leaves someone in a different state? My friends are looking at me like I did something wrong when you're the one who left. You're making me look bad to everyone I know. I didn't respond to any of it, at least not at first, but here's where it gets interesting. Yesterday morning, I got a message from Susie, one of the quieter girls in Talia's friend group. We'd talked maybe 3 times total before this trip. She sent me this. Hey Ryan, I wasn't going to say anything because it's not really my business, but I feel like you should know. The night before the beach thing with Jace, Talia was talking about you to a couple of us. She said she wanted to test how secure you are, and that she needed you to show some passion instead of being boring all the time. She literally planned to make you jealous. She even told Jace beforehand that she was going to flirt with him to get a reaction out of you. I'm sorry. I thought it was messed up then, and I still think it's messed up now. I read that message about 10 times, just sat there staring at my phone. She engineered the whole thing. It wasn't spontaneous. It wasn't just being friendly. She set up a situation specifically designed to humiliate me, and when I didn't react the way she wanted, when I didn't make a scene or beg or fight for her, she got mad that her little social experiment backfired. That's when I finally responded to her. Just one message. You told me to go home, so I did. Then I muted her number. Since then, I've gotten messages from a few other people in the group. It's clear the friend group is starting to fracture. Some people are defending her, the ones who are all about loyalty no matter what, but others are questioning her version of events. Apparently she's been posting Instagram stories with vague captions about knowing your worth and cutting out insecure energy. But here's the thing that's kind of satisfying in a dark way. Not everyone is buying it. Susie sent me another message saying that 2 people in the group chat called Talia out directly. One person said, "You literally told him to go home. What did you expect?" Another said, "Don't blame him for your mess. You embarrassed him on purpose." The group is splitting. And it's not over me, it's over the fact that people are seeing a pattern of behavior they've apparently tolerated for a while. I'm not celebrating or anything. This whole thing just feels surreal. I keep thinking about that moment on the beach, how confident she looked when she said it. Like she knew everyone would laugh, like she knew I'd just take it and shrink away. The fact that she'd planned it made it so much worse. I still haven't fully processed what this means for us. I guess I'm starting to realize there might not be an us to process. Update 2. It's been a week and a half since everything went down, and I wasn't sure if I should post another update. But some things came to light that I think paint a fuller picture of what was actually happening. So after my last post, things got messier in the friend group. I wasn't directly involved in any of it, but information kept finding its way to me through Susie and one other person who reached out. Apparently the group chat became a war zone. The tipping point was when someone pointed out that Talia couldn't keep her story straight. She was telling people I abandoned her without warning, but multiple people saw me stand there calmly after she told me to leave. One person said, "You told him to go home in front of everyone. He went home. What's the problem?" That's when more stuff started coming out. Remember Jace, the tour guide? Turns out he wasn't just some random local activity coordinator. One of Talia's friends had invited him specifically because Talia had been following him on Instagram for months. Not just following, commenting on his stories, deeming him about how cool the keys look, asking when he'd be down there. She'd been building up to this for a while. During the trip, I started thinking back on little things that hadn't made sense at the time but suddenly fit into a pattern. How Talia would angle her phone away from me when she was on social media. How all her Instagram stories from the trip featured everyone except me, like I'd been edited out of the vacation. She'd post photos of the sunset, the beach, the group, Jace helping with the water sports equipment, but somehow I never appeared in a single frame. How she was constantly checking her phone and smiling at messages, but would flip it face down when I walked by. How she'd excuse herself to take a call and come back 10 minutes later looking pleased with herself. I'd thought maybe she was just documenting the trip for her followers. Maybe she was being thoughtful by not posting couple content when we were with a group. I'd explained away every red flag because I didn't want to be that guy, the suspicious, controlling boyfriend she kept saying I was on the verge of becoming. Here's what really got me. One of her friends sent me a screenshot. It was from before the trip, from their group chat planning the vacation. Talia had posted asking if anyone knew hot local guys in Florida. Someone suggested Jace, mentioned he did tour guide stuff in the Keys. Talia responded, "Perfect. Ryan needs to see I have options." I stared at that screenshot for a solid hour, just trying to wrap my head around it, reading it over and over, looking for some alternative interpretation that would make it less calculated than it appeared. She wasn't testing my security. She was testing whether I'd stay around while she kept one foot out the door. She wanted me to see her options, so I'd know I was replaceable, so I'd work harder to keep her interested. It was a power move disguised as social behavior. The "go home" comment wasn't a slip of the tongue or a joke that went wrong. It was a declaration. You're just a prop in my life. Know your place. That realization hit different than the initial humiliation. Last Thursday, she called me from a different number. I almost didn't answer, but I was tired of the limbo, tired of wondering when the next wave of messages would come. Part of me wanted to hear what she'd say when she couldn't rely on text to carefully craft her message. Her voice was this weird mix of defensive and desperate. "You left me there to deal with everything by myself. Do you know how humiliating that was for me? My friends were asking where you went. The hotel staff was questioning me about the booking. I looked like an idiot." I let her finish. Let her get it all out. There was more, something about how I'd made her look unstable, and how she couldn't believe someone who supposedly loved her would do this. When she finally stopped to take a breath, I said, "Are you humiliated because you lost your boyfriend or because you lost someone to pay for things and watch you perform?" Silence. Long, heavy silence. I could hear her breathing on the other end, could almost see her trying to formulate a response that would sound good. Then she pivoted. "That's not fair. I never said, look, we can talk about this when I'm calmer, when we've both had time to cool down. But right now I need you to send money for the hotel charges. We can work through everything else after. And there it was. Even in this conversation, even knowing I'd found out about the planning, about Jace, about everything, she was still trying to manage me, still trying to control the narrative, still acting like financial leverage was the relationship. The vulnerability in her voice wasn't about missing me. It was about needing something from me. I told her, I'm not the structural support for your ego or your expenses. We're done. She got angry then, really angry. The desperation evaporated and the real feelings came out. Started yelling about how I was abandoning her in her time of need, how I was proving I never really cared, how she dodged a bullet because I was clearly not mature enough for a real relationship, how I was showing my true colors and she was glad to see this side of me before it got more serious. I didn't argue. I just said, you told me to leave somewhere, you invited me, so I left. You don't get to be mad that I took you at your word. Then I hung up. I sent one final text. I don't need to fight about this. I'm just done being somewhere you let other people treat me like a joke. Then I blocked her number, blocked her on everything. I kept Susie and one other person unblocked just in case there was any actual emergency, but that's it. Since then, it's been quiet on my end. Susie told me Talia has been posting vague things about toxic masculinity and controlling behavior, trying to frame this as me being possessive rather than her being disrespectful. But apparently people who were actually there aren't buying it. I'm not going to lie, part of me is still processing. Part of me wonders if I could have communicated better earlier in the relationship. But the bigger part of me knows that no amount of communication would have changed someone who planned to humiliate their partner for entertainment. So yeah, that's where things stand. I'm done with the drama, done with the circus, just trying to get back to normal life. Final update. I promise this is the last one. I wanted to close out this story properly because a lot of you have been following along. It's been about 3.5 weeks since I left that beach. Everything has settled in ways I didn't fully expect, some satisfying, some just sad, all of it teaching me something I needed to learn. First, the practical stuff. Talia did eventually have to pay for the hotel. From what Susie told me, she had to call her mom and her older brother to wire money because her credit cards were maxed out. The hotel added late fees and some kind of penalty charge. Total damage was around $1,200. I felt zero guilt about that. She made her choices. She dealt with the consequences. But the financial hit kept going. Susie mentioned that Talia's mom was not happy about having to bail her out. Apparently this wasn't the first time Talia had overspent and needed rescue. Her brother made her sign something agreeing to pay him back monthly. And because her cards were maxed and she'd missed a payment during all the drama, her credit score took a hit. She was complaining in the group chat about having to move back home for a few months because she couldn't afford her apartment anymore after her roommate moved out. Turns out when you build a lifestyle around appearances and validation, the foundations are pretty shaky. The friend group situation played out exactly like some of you predicted. Out of the 8 people on that trip, 2 completely cut ties with Talia. They'd apparently been uncomfortable with her behavior for a while, not just toward me, but in general. The whole manufacturing drama for social media content thing had gotten old. They saw this situation as the final straw. 3 people stayed loyal to her, mostly the ones who are just as deeply invested in online validation as she is. They've been posting supportive comments on her vague Instagram stories, that whole queens support queens energy. Whatever. The other 3, including Susie, are kind of maintaining neutral distance, still friendly but not really going out of their way to hang out with her. Susie said the dynamic in that group is permanently weird now, and she's not sure it'll ever go back to normal. Now here's the part that I won't pretend didn't feel a little bit validating. Jace completely ghosted Talia. According to Susie, the day after I left, Talia started getting more obviously flirty with him, probably to save face or prove she still had it, or whatever. Jace was into it at first, he'd signed up for this dynamic from the start. But then the hotel payment drama happened and Talia started asking if he could help out with costs. He apparently made some excuse about having to get back to Miami early and just disappeared, stopped responding to messages, unfollowed her on Instagram. Gone. Turns out guys who are willing to be props in someone else's relationship drama aren't usually looking for anything serious. Who would have thought? The thing that really crystallized everything for me happened about 2 weeks ago. A mutual acquaintance, someone who wasn't on the trip, reached out asking if Talia and I had broken up because Talia was telling people I'd abandoned her during a vulnerable moment and was emotionally abusive. I didn't defend myself to this person. I just said we weren't together anymore and left it at that. But it bothered me for about an hour until Susie sent me something that made me realize I didn't need to defend myself at all. Someone in the friend group had screen recorded the Instagram story from that exact moment on the beach. You could hear Talia's voice clearly saying, "If you're jealous, go home." You could see me standing there, not making a scene, just standing there, then walking away. Susie said she and a few others made sure that video circulated in their social circle when Talia started pushing the emotionally abusive boyfriend narrative. Not to be malicious, just to provide context. The story died pretty quickly after that. People stopped asking me about it. Nobody was buying Talia's version anymore. I didn't need to say anything. The truth just existed. And that was enough. As for me, I've spent the past few weeks just living quietly. Went back to work, hung out with my actual friends, the ones I'd been neglecting because Talia always had plans that required my presence. Turns out I'd missed a lot. I'd been so wrapped up in managing Talia's social calendar and making sure I was available whenever she needed an audience that I'd let real connections slide. Went on a solo camping trip last weekend. Just me, my tent, and a lake in North Carolina. No cell service. No one to perform for. No one analyzing my every reaction to see if I was fun enough or secure enough. Just silence and trees and my own thoughts. It was the most peaceful I'd felt in months. I'm not dating anyone right now. Not really looking to. A couple people have suggested dating apps or setups, and my mom keeps hinting about plenty of fish in the sea. But honestly, I'm fine with just being by myself for a while. After 18 months of managing someone else's need for constant attention and validation, after walking on eggshells wondering if being myself was enough or too much or too boring, silence feels really good. Being alone feels different than being lonely. I'm learning that difference. Talia wanted me to react. She wanted jealousy, anger, desperation, anything that would confirm I was controllable and she was valuable. She wanted to win. I chose to leave so I wouldn't lose myself. Last thing, a few people asked if she ever actually apologized or acknowledged what happened. No, not once. Even when everything came out about the planning, about Jace, about the whole setup, she never said, "I'm sorry." She said, "I'm sorry you felt that way, and I'm sorry this got so blown out of proportion, and I'm sorry you couldn't handle a joke." But she never said, "I'm sorry for disrespecting you. I'm sorry for humiliating you publicly. I'm sorry for treating you like you didn't matter." And that tells me everything I need to know about whether I made the right choice. So that's it. That's the end of this chapter. I'm not expecting to hear from her again. If I do, I won't respond. This story is over. Now I'm just moving forward. Building a life that doesn't need an audience to be meaningful. Finding people who see me as a person, not a supporting character in their show. And you know what? It's better. It's quieter, it's simpler, and it's better. Thanks for following this journey with me. I'm out.